everyone, I hope you're doing good, and in today's module we are going to learn an interesting concept of l'heure. L'heure means the time in French, and often this question is being asked, quelle heure est-il? Quelle heure est-il means what time is it, and we are going to learn how to respond to this question, quelle heure est-il? But before that, let's learn how to write the time in digits. Suppose if it is in English, I have to write 10:30 a.m. We are separating the hours and the minutes by a colon. But in French, we are separating it by this letter H. And here, this letter H stands for heure. Heure also means hour in French. Also in French, we only use the 24-hour clock to write down the time in digits. So let's take an example. Suppose if it is 3:15 p.m. we only use the 24-hour clock. So we have to convert 3 plus 12, 15. So we will be writing it as 15H15. Let's take one more example. Suppose if it is 9:45 p.m. How am I going to write this in digit? Yes, you are correct. I will be writing it as 21H45. One last example. Suppose if it is 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to write it as 5800. Let's take an example to learn how to say the time in French. The question is again, quelle heure est-il? And you respond by saying it as il est. Il est means it is, and then you say the time. Let's take an example. Suppose if it is 3:20 a.m. How am I going to write it in digits? Yes, you are absolutely correct. We write it as 3H20. And how am I going to say this in French? I will be saying it as il est. From here, it is, how much hours it is? 3. So what's 3 called in French? Trois heures. Heure means hours. 20. So I am saying it as il est trois heures 20. Note that we don't have to say il est trois heures 20 minutes. We don't need to use the word minutes because it is understood that when I say il est trois heures 20, the 20 is the minute. Let's take one more example. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 3:20 p.m. First, let's see how to write this in digits. Yes, you are correct. We will write 15H20 because in French, to write the time in digits, we only use the 24-hour clock. Let's learn to say this in French. We will start our sentence by saying il est. So we will say il est 15h20. Il est 15h20. Now, while saying the time in French, you can also use the 12-hour clock. For digits, you use only the 24-hour clock, but while saying, you can also use the 12-hour clock. But preferably, the people use the 24-hour clock, but you can also use the 12-hour clock. So how am I going to say this in 12-hour clock? Yes, I will be saying il est trois heures 20. But hey, wait. If I say il est trois heures 20, how will I get to know whether it is trois heures 20 in the morning or is it in the afternoon? Because in French, we don't have concepts of AM, PM. So for that, we have this. If I want to say in the morning, I will say du matin. If I have to say in the afternoon, I will say de l'après-midi. And if I have to say in the evening, I will be saying it as du soir. Excellent. Du matin, de l'après-midi, and du soir. So can you tell me in this time right now, il est 3h20 when it is 3:20 p.m. What am I going to use? Yes, I will be using de l'après-midi. Understand, matin, that is morning, is from midnight to noon. From noon to 6 o'clock in the evening, we can say afternoon. And from 6 o'clock in the evening till the midnight, you can say evening. Okay, let's continue. Let's take one more example. Quelle heure est-il? And observe these clocks. And the time is already given. It is 10:15, 10h30 and here it is 10h45 and I have to say this time in French. Of course, it is the time that is in the morning. So let's try doing this one. How am I going to do it? Il est 10h15. Bravo. Next one. Il est 10h30. And the last one, how am I going to say it? Il est 10h45. So do you agree? If you know your numbers well, you can say the time in French correctly. But hey, wait. Also, if you know in English as well, or else in your language, whenever it is 10:15 or it is 15, do you say it is 10 and a quarter? If it is 10:30, will you say it's 10 and a half? And if it is 10:45, can we say it is quarter to 11? Yes, let's learn these concepts of how to say and a quarter, and a half, and quarter to in French. So, a quart means and a quarter. A quart, that means if it is 15, 1, 5, 15, we can say a quart. And a half in French is called as a demi. And moins le quart means minus the quarter. Because a quarter is 15. So minus the quarter, that becomes 45. A quart, a demi, moins le quart. Let's take the same example and let's try to say the time in a different way. So the first one I will be saying it as il est 10h15. Excellent. The next one I will be saying it as il est 10h30. And the last one I will be saying it as il est 10h moins le quart. But wait, will I say 10h moins le quart? Because it's 10 o'clock minus a quarter. Because if I'm saying it's 10 o'clock minus a quarter, then it will become 9:45. And I want to say here it is 10:45. So, yes, I will not say il est 10h moins le quart. Instead, I will be saying it as il est 11h moins le quart. So, whenever we are minusing or whenever we are deducting the time, we have to always take 1 hour plus. So, here I will say il est 11h moins le quart. I hope you understood. Let's take one more example. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 3:30 p.m. There are going to be different ways to say this. You can use the 24-hour clock. You can use the 12-hour clock. As it is and a half, I can say it is 3:30. I can also say it's 3:30. I want you to try saying it is 3:30 p.m. in French. I'm sure till now you must have figured out at least one. Let's check the responses that are there. I can say il est 15h30. I can also say il est 15h30. Excellent. If I'm using the 24-hour clock, I can also say il est 3h30. But again, I will have to add de l'après-midi. And the last one, I can also say il est 3h30 de l'après-midi. So you see, there are different ways of saying the time. It is on you which one you want to use. Let's take one more example. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 1 p.m. How am I going to write it in digits? Yes, I will write it as 13H00. How am I going to say this in French? Yes, I will say il est 13h. I don't need to say il est 13h0. No, il est 13h. If I have to say the same thing in the 12-hour clock, how am I going to say it? Yes, it is il est 1h de l'après-midi. What is this 1h? Why not un? Because the word is feminine. So we are using yun. Also, did you observe a small change? That normally is S, but here we are removing the S. Because it's just 1 o'clock, it is singular. That's why we are saying il est 1h de l'après-midi. Let's take one more example. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 8:50 a.m. in the morning. How am I going to write it in digits? Yes, you are absolutely correct. I will be saying 8:50. How am I going to say this in French? Yes, you are correct. I will say il est 8h50. Bravo, I will say il est 8h50. But in English also, and as well as in your language, whatever you are learning and speaking, do you also say it is 10 minutes to 9? Can I say this? It is 10 minutes to 9. How will I say it is 10 minutes to 9 in French? Yes. I can say il est 9h10. Il est 9h. It's 9 hours moins 10. But I will not say moins le 10, moins 10. So whichever number you want to deduct, you just say minus and the number. I hope you are understanding. That's great. Also, one more point, I can say il est 8h50 du matin as well. If I'm saying the 12-hour clock, okay? Il est 8h50 du matin. Here also I can say il est 9h10 du matin. Okay, let's proceed with one last example. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 9:45 p.m. How am I going to write it in digits? Yes, you are correct. I will write 21h45. How am I going to say this in French? There are various ways of saying, and let's observe which are the ways of saying this time in French. I can say it as il est 9h45 du soir. I can say il est 21h45. Il est 10h moins le quart du soir. I can also say il est 22h moins le quart du soir. Sorry, il est 22h moins le quart because already it is a 24-hour clock. I can say il est 10h moins 15. I can also say it is 10 hours minus 15 du soir. And the last one, I can say il est 22h moins 15. Different ways of saying the time. Let's just observe one last pattern that is there. Quelle heure est-il? And it is 12 p.m. And here it is 12 a.m. Remember, my friends, we don't have any concept of AM, PM. We also don't use those while saying the time. We cannot say it's 12 o'clock. We either say it is midi, il est midi, or we say il est minuit. Midi is noon and minuit is midnight. So for example, if it is quelle heure est-il and if it is 12h10 or if it is 12h15 or 12h30, I will be saying it as here, il est midi 10. I cannot say il est 12h10. No. I will be saying il est midi 10. I can say il est midi et quart or il est midi 15. Similarly, I will say il est midi et demi or il est midi 30. Observe here, in the spelling of demi, the spelling is D-E-M-I and not D-E-M-I-E because the word midi and minuit are masculine. Let's just revise what all we have learned right now, the points that you need to remember, that preferably we use the 24-hour clock. After 30 minutes, preferably we deduct from the next hour. Remember the 12 noon and the 12 midnight, that is midi et minuit, and never write the word minute. We just say without minute. We say, par exemple, il est 10h20. We don't have to say il est 10h20 minute. cute. One last vocab recap. What's under quarter? A quart. A demi. Excellent. A demi is under half. Moins le quart is minus the quarter. Du matin is in the morning. De l'après-midi is in the afternoon. And du soir is in the evening. Hope to see you in the next module. Au revoir. Bye-bye.